Now, there is no doubt that the Birkin is an icon and a holy grail piece for so many. However, there are some pieces that I think you can explore with first before you start spending all that cash on an Hermes journey to decide, could this work for me? Hello, 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 and the warmest of welcomes to today's video. For those of you who haven't seen my face before, hi, I'm Nick, proud to have you here. Those of you who have seen my face before, thank you so much for joining me again. I hope you enjoy my videos. I put out videos roughly 2 to 3 times a week on a range of different topics, anywhere from fashion, slightly more personal topics. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, please do head down, hit subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. I love chatting with you all. I'm all about living life loud, and what that means to me is being your authentic self, being proud to be you, and just celebrating who you are. Celebrating yourself, and of course, celebrating others. So, here we are to talk about bags that I think you could use to whet your appetite for a Birkin. And this is not me by any means saying you shouldn't be buying a Birkin. This is not me saying that you should replace a Birkin with these items, or you should strike it off your list. But you know, I am someone who is very mindful about how they spend, what they spend, and tries to maximize every penny. And the Hermes Birkin is a very expensive bag, comes in many iterations, multiple sizes, different leather options. It's a very expensive bag. And in a lot of instances, it can be the first of its style that people buy, dependent on their preferences. And therefore, I think that there are options that can help you build to it to see, is this a bag that I think I'm going to love? Now, I'm not normally a fan of going for a dupe. I think I love the piece for a specific reason, but these are all beautiful items that I think you would enjoy carrying to just make sure it's the right thing for you. I did a similar thing probably 5 or 6 years ago when I wanted a velvet Gucci Marmont, the flat bag, the smaller flat bag. And I bought a dupe from Abbott Lion in a similar colour, and it was too small. It just didn't work for me. I didn't really enjoy it. So I realised that spending £1,500 on the Marmont was not going to work for me. So that was great. That was a good experiment. And yeah, I think there are bags that you can buy that are absolutely stunning across the size range that would maybe indicate for you, is this something that's worthwhile? Now, of course, if you just happen to love Hermes and you're buying all of the pieces anyway because you love them, super. But if you are buying solely with the goal of picking up the Birkin, because there is, of course, the Kelly, but I'm thinking the Birkin in this instance, then maybe just before you start parting with lots of your hard-earned money, make sure that it's the right bag style, okay? So, hopefully that clarifies all of that. Now, let's get into this list. And a few of these I have examples of that I can show you. Now, what I've tried to do is pick pieces that, from a cost perspective, are not comparable to the Birkin. So they are truly trial pieces. You know, there would be no point me giving you an alternative that was only 10% less expensive than the Birkin would be. That's not much of a trial. So I've tried to give you really beautiful pieces from great brands that are a fraction of the price, okay? This first one I think is the most expensive alternative that I'm going to share with you. I have an example of it. It is the Prada Galleria. Now, I have a older version of this particular bag. It's had many names over the years, and this is my one in yellow. I have one of the sort of larger sizes of this. Mine's a 35 centimeter base. You can buy the Galleria in a range of sizes, beautiful colors. It's a top handle, full leather bag, and it has a lot of the same features that the Birkin has. One of the things it doesn't have in quite the same way is the closure approach, but it will give you an indication of differing capacities. Is a full leather bag of that size, depending on which size you want to go for, appropriate for you? To be honest, the ones that I think people need to probably consider most would be the 35 and the 40, because big bags, they get heavy, a lot of leather, so just something to think about. The 30 also has, the 30 can also be considered probably getting towards a fairly heavy bag. It's a size that's a little bit more all day, I would say. whereas the 25 is, I think, much more sort of, can be evening. It can also be day, but it's a much smaller style of bag. So there's probably less to consider with the 25 than I would say with some of these bigger sizes. But the first option could be the Prada Galleria. Beautiful bag. It is still fairly pricey. You know, you're talking somewhere in the high 3s, low 4s. And if you want special editions or exotics, etc., you start spending even more. But you are talking at least half the price of a Birkin to get you started. So that's number one. Number two is one that I think is a great alternative, or a great trial piece, just to see if it will work for you. And it's the Mulberry Zipped Bayswater. Now, at the moment, there's, I believe, only a small size. Maybe there's like a micro, but the majority of the sizes are the small. You can buy different sizes on the pre-loved market. They have done different sizes over the year. Beautiful, beautiful bag, great price point, just over sort of £1,100-1,200. So it's, what would that be? An eighth of the price of probably the equivalent sized Birkin. Mulberry's a great brand. The craftsmanship is really nice on them. It comes with a strap, nice top handle. Again, it's full leather. In the larger sizes, it can get quite heavy. Another one that you might also think about would be the Heritage Bayswater, but to be honest, I think the zipped is closer than the Heritage Bayswater if you're thinking about a Birkin. However, if you're thinking about something like a Birkin 35 or a 40 and you want to know what it feels like to carry one of these bigger bags, then a Bayswater, a Heritage Bayswater in the 37cm base could be a good test for you. Next up, one of the bags that is probably most commonly associated with the Birkin as an alternative, but again, I think it sits at a price point that it can be a test for you if you wanted it to be, still from a fabulous brand. And this is the Saint Laurent Sac de Jour. This comes out in multiple sizes, multiple color variations, multiple materials. It is top handle, it is full leather, it has a lot of the features and the aesthetic of a Birkin, which means that it could be a great test for you in terms of your wardrobe styling. Do you pick up that bag? Does the size work for you? Does the weight and practicality of the bag work for you? Do you find yourself gravitating towards it? All at a price point that's probably a quarter of what a Birkin would set you back, just for the bag itself, let alone the game that you have to play in order to potentially get there. So I would say that is one that is often referenced when thinking about a Birkin alternative. But of course, in this list, we're talking about potentially a tester item instead of a flat-out alternative. Now, one that falls much more into the affordable category, and this is from Manu Atelier, and this is the Le Cambon bag. This comes in a range of sizes. There was a 35, there was a 40, there was a 20, there was a 25. So this is a lovely bag. It's not dissimilar to the Coach Carryall, which probably could have featured on this list. The Ferragamo Hug, which again probably could have featured on this list, but I didn't want it to be, you know, a year long. But I just thought it was a great price point. For the 35 in a black leather, you were looking at £580. It's very simple, it's very chic, sophisticated. Did it set my heart on fire? No, it didn't, but it's a nice shape. I wish that maybe, I would actually probably look at this if it came out in a different color variation, something that was a little bit more vibrant or bright or crisp. But in terms of neutrals, which I believe is what a lot of people seek the Birkins in, you've got brown suede, you've got black leather, you've got lots of sort of neutral classic alternatives with this bag, and it's at a really good price point. So one to think about, one that again can test capacity, weight, versatility. Do you style it? Do you pick it up? Now, visually, it is not the closest on this list to a Birkin, but I think it has a lot of the features that you could use to draw a parallel to see if you would use a Birkin should you be able to get your hands on one. Now, my next two are actually quite similar, and these will round out the list. The first one is from Ralph Lauren. Now, I probably could have talked about the Ricky. That would have been an option, but I'm actually going to talk about the Ralph Lauren RL50. I think that this is a beautiful bag, comes in many variations, and it can also be incredibly expensive. There is a alligator version of this bag that's like 22,000, which I know compared to a Birkin in an exotic is probably, or in an alligator is probably still nowhere near that price point, but that is a lot of money. But it comes out in lots of material options, lots of color variations. It's a stunning, stunning bag. What I like about this is the fact that it has the wings that you can tuck in or tuck out to give it a different aesthetic. This will be a fairly sizable bag, fairly heavy, but got a good capacity. So this would be a great test to style a Birkin 35 or a Birkin 40. Or even a 30, but you might just have to consider the fact that the sizing is slightly different. But I think it would be a great way of testing. Like I said, you could also look at a Ricky if you wanted to. Could also be a great comparison bag, and you can get those at great price points. Pre-loved, they're also not, you know, the most ridiculously priced bag new from boutique either. So definitely consider Ralph Lauren. They have some really beautiful pieces, and I think people sleep on Ralph Lauren a little bit when it comes to their accessories, etc. I can say I probably do that a little bit as well, because I have one Ralph Lauren bag, but it's a Ralph Lauren bag, and it's a belt bag, and I never use it. It's in there. But yeah, I could probably stand to have a Ricky or an RL50. They're the sort of bag style that I would carry with a lot of joy. And last but by no means least, let's talk about a couple of pieces from Celine. So I think one that you could definitely consider would be the belt bag. And this, I think, is a really chic, sophisticated style. It's a beautiful piece from Celine. Comes in a couple of different sizes, a few variations, so definitely one to think about. However, the one that really springs to mind when I think about this is, of course, the luggage and the variations of the luggage. Now, at the moment, there only seems to be the smaller size of luggage on the Celine website, so I wonder if they're phasing it out. But you can buy a range of sizes on the pre-loved market. Just make sure with Celine, look at the dimensions, because their labeling of sizes doesn't always make sense. So look at the dimensions before you dive in and go, oh, it's a micro, it must be a tiny bag. Look at the dimensions first, okay? So definitely the Celine luggage. However, the one that actually really sprung to mind and really was the inspiration for this video was, of course, the Phantom, because I think this is one of the closest bags that you can buy to particularly a larger size Birkin. If you're thinking about a Birkin 35, Birkin 40, this is definitely a bag that you should be looking at and thinking about, because I think aesthetically, it is not a million miles away. It is a very capacious bag, but it can be also very heavy. It's got so many pros to it. One of the things it doesn't have that the Birkin does is some of the closures, the sangles, etc. But there is a lot about this bag that I think is similar to the Birkin, and the prices that you can get these at, somewhere around £1,000. It's a great bag to test if you would carry a Birkin. I think there is so much that is similar about these particular bags, and this is a bag that I have just been so in love with for so many years, but now that I've got it, I'm so thrilled with it. But we won't go too into that because I will do a review at some point. But I think that there are lots of options out there, lots of color options. So you can really test, you can really push yourself to see if it will work for you. And like I said, you can get it at such a good price point. Celine is a fabulous brand. You can't buy these brand new any longer, but you can buy them on the pre-loved market. You can get them in fabric, you can get them in leather. There are lots of variations out there. There's also the odd exotic floating around, or mock exotic. I don't know if they're true exotics or mocks, but you can get that look if you wanted to. So this was really the bag that made me think, now that I've carried a Phantom, I know that I would use the Birkin. The only thing I'm now thinking is, would I use a Birkin instead of a Phantom? Or do I just want another Phantom? I don't know. I think I've unlocked a new obsession. Yeah. Where I put on my wish list about wanting a Celine Phantom and how, you know, I had 5 things on my wish list, does it count if I just have like lots of the same items? So am I technically breaking the rules if I just buy loads of Celine Phantoms this year? Because then I've only really bought one. Yeah? Does that make sense? I think so. I think if I just buy lots and lots of variations of every item that was on that wish list, then I think, you know, regardless, I think I've stayed within the rules. That's something to think about. The same way I bought loads of Bayswaters last year, maybe this year will be the year that I buy loads of Phantoms. Who knows? But anyway, that was that one. I think it's a great alternative. So there we have it, everyone. That is today's video. So if you are in the market for a Birkin and you are thinking, is this going to work for me? Is there a piece that maybe I can test? Here are some options. If you are in the market for a Birkin, but maybe at the moment you don't want to spend the money, you don't want to play the game, you're just looking for an alternative, then here's a great list for you as well. So thank you so much, as always, for watching. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Take care, everyone. Bye now. Mwah.